On this episode, we chat with legendary travel writer and man about town, Joe Cummings.
So if you like listening to good stories well told about 4 decades in Thailand, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 for a quick vacation with a friend, but I invested all my money in a container full of VCD players in Yawarat in 2002, and I can't leave until I make back my investment.
That's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract 20 years ago, fell in love with taxi drivers saying, "America, very good." So I never left.
Why would you want to leave with that kind of positive reinforcement everywhere?
Seriously, when you tell people you're from America, they always say like, "Very good, very good."
At least we're past the days where they would go, Bin Laden, haha.
Right, yeah. All right, we want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about how the Oscars have become a really dreary affair and what that says about how we experience cinema in a post-COVID world, how difficult it is to do normal work tasks when you're not allowed to go to work, and unfortunately, Thailand's slide back into lockdown land.
Boo.
Boo, yeah. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Yeah, all right. Well, before we get started, I want to mention a couple of quick things. First of all, we've had a couple of orders recently for t-shirts and mugs and what have you, not to mention postcards for our patrons. But Thailand recently suspended its outgoing mail, all of it, apparently. So it's going to be a little bit longer until those...
It's incredible. It's incredible. The whole country, they suspended mail leaving the country.
God, can you imagine what kind of backup there's going to be at post offices around the country? It's going to be nuts.
Yeah, crazy.
And second of all, Ed, last show we mentioned that one of our patrons wrote in, and he is a member of the show Shoutout level.
That's right.
He said shadow level. He thought it was the shadow level. And since then, I have gotten 3 emails from people saying, I thought it was shadow level too.
Dude, it's your Canadian accent.
It must be my Canadian.
You can't freaking speak English because you're from Canada.
Hey, come on, get on board. Give me some credit, eh? So anyway, for those wondering, it's shout out level.
And, shout out level.
You do get a shout out on the show, but we are seriously thinking of adding a shadow level. I'm not sure what that's going to give you yet, but like I said,
that'll really confuse people because then they'll start saying shadow level and they'll be like, is he saying shout out?
I want my shout out, but all I got was this Tom Yum Goong patterned ninja suit.
That's great.
All right. Well, on this episode, this is a good episode. We welcome back one of Thailand's true Renaissance men, legendary travel writer, researcher, musician, and man about town, Joe Cummings. Now, if you've lived in Thailand for any time whatsoever, you probably know Joe's name as the founding author of the Lonely Planet Thailand guide back in the early 80s. But he's also authored dozens of travel books, blown out eardrums, playing guitar from blues and rock stages across Thailand, worked as an actor, shown Mick Jagger around Bangkok, and even helped the makers of Disney's latest animated feature, Raya and the Last Dragon, keep their facts straight about Asian culture. So this episode also marks exactly 10 years, almost to the day, since Joe was last a guest on the Bangkok Podcast way back in season 1. So here is part 1 of the great conversation that me, Ed, and Joe had about all things Thailand, fueled by a quickly diminishing bottle of Jack Daniels. All right, well, Joe Cummings, welcome again to the Bangkok Podcast. It has been almost exactly 10 years since you were last a guest on May 2nd, 2011. I wrote it down here.
Wow. Yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, thanks, man. So listeners, we are sitting here, Ed and I are sitting here with Joe in a little meeting room. You may hear from time to time the occasional ice clinking in a glass.
It's clear water. It's fresh water.
It's fresh water mixed with mash from Tennessee, also known as Jack Daniels. So if you hear a little bit of that, that's what's going on. But Joe, welcome back, man. It's always good to see you. You're one of those guys that's sort of got this like outsized reputation aura. You're a busy dude, so we appreciate the time to come and sit down.
Sure, glad. Yeah, no problem.
So you just got off of a. Now this is going to be free floating chat discussion.
Yeah.
There's no structure here, so let's just get into it. You just got off of a film.
Yeah, it's not finished. I have more days coming up in 2 weeks, but I finished the first section that was filming in a location I think I might have mentioned to you, but it's actually secret. I signed a non-disclosure agreement, but I can say as much about the film as the director has already said.
All right.
Now, is this the Thai production you're working on?
It's called Morrison is the title, and the hottest young director in Thailand, probably.
Now, is
the
topic of the movie, is that public yet, or like what it's about, or no? No.
It's really wild though. It's got a bit of a psychedelic edge to it, a little bit of rock and roll in it, because the guy Putipong is like a musician himself, and he's talked in interviews about how he wanted to indulge that side of it.
Cool.
His last film, which did really, really well, was 2 years ago, Mantare.
Oh, I heard of it.
I've never seen it. I've
in
heard.
Thai, Kaben Rahu. And very, very good film. Won a lot of prizes at festivals, and I think it did okay on the box office.
Now, do you have a big role in this film?
Pretty big, yeah. Probably billed third or fourth.
Nice.
I've played the father of the star, who's secret right now. I told you earlier, but I don't think I can say that. It's not in the press yet who the star is. And I have like about 16 pages of dialogue. Now,
most of your career or your reputation is as a writer, travel expert, even though we know you've done a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Is acting a later life thing, or did you do it when you were younger? Or
no, I didn't do it. Well, I was like in high school, one high school play. But I knew I never had any aspirations for that, and still don't really. But if someone invites me to do it, then why not? You know,
that's a really cool transition from
like,
travel writer to noted actor guy. Because I first met you, Joe, at your birthday party in Chiang Mai, about 2002.
Oh, wow.
Really quickly, you had no idea who I was. I was just a backpacker idiot at the time.
No shit. Oh.
Yeah, I was waking up every day at like 10 a.m. going to Sizzler for breakfast. Total loser. But then you and I we worked together on a little movie we did, The Bootleg Guru.
In 2003.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
I think it was 2003.
Wow, you guys go way back.
Yeah, I was the sound guy.
That's right.
And Joe was an actor.
That's right.
Oh, so you were doing even acting back then?
Yeah, that's right. And is that my first ever role? It probably was, but that movie was never released. But
no, it was this crazy production up in the hills of Pai.
Yeah,
and I'm sure I've told this story on the podcast before, but one of my most vivid memories of one night was Joe. We're in the middle of the jungle, right? And Joe's like, "Hey, you want pizza?" We're like, "Where do you get pizza around here?" He goes, "I know a good pizza guy." So we get into the back of this pickup truck and we burn off into the jungle. And there's this Russian dude in the middle of the jungle.
Algerian?
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was just like this. I'm sure he must have been escaping from the law at some point.
An Algerian pizza maker
with a beautiful wood-burning pizza oven.
I mean, he was Algerian French. He grew up in Algeria, but he became a French citizen.
And he's in Pai or outside of Pai.
Yeah, just on the outskirts. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And he made damn good
incredible pizza.
Yeah.
He's died. Sadly, he died. He passed away about 4 years ago.
I hope it was peacefully.
I don't really know what happened. Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool. And you were also involved in a previous guest, Tom Waller, who was on the podcast last year. You were involved in his movie, The Cave.
Yeah. And I first met Tom in 2003. And I've worked on every one of Tom's films except one, either as script. This is probably how I got into acting, was either as a script editor. He asked me to look at a script and see if, the stuff rang true for the Thai parts, if it was realistic, kind of the Thai cultural advisor, I guess. And then I did location management, location scouting with him. And then he pulled me on to do a role in a film he did in 2006 called The Elephant King. Have you seen that?
I remember that. Yeah, sure.
Really good film.
Yeah.
Directed by Seth Grossman from LA. It was his first feature film, but he's a very successful director now. And I played a drug dealer in that one, but it was a very small part. And because he just needed someone, on the spur of the moment. And then I'd done some film music for him. I did a major theme for Last Executioner, when was that? I don't know, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Also, I thought a really good movie. Did well in the festival circuit. And yeah, won a major prize at Shanghai. I forgot what the prize was, Shanghai Film Festival.
It got a lot of play, that movie. A lot of
Yeah.
Joe, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So on the podcast, Greg and I, often have to try to explain Thailand to expats and tourists. Now, we're very self-deprecating because we feel like we're not experts.
Yeah.
How do you frame it? Like you have all this knowledge of Thailand and all this experience in Thai language. Do you consider yourself an expert on Thai culture, or how do you explain stuff? I mean, it must be hard to summarize. I mean, this is the problem Greg and I have when someone asks us about Thailand. We try to give an answer, but Thailand is diverse like every other country. Sometimes it's hard to.
Verbally, I have a hard time. If someone just asks me, face to face, and I just stumble around, or I try to remember something I wrote. But as a writer, see, I've had to do that so many times that I can do that. You tell me to write, 2 paragraphs on some aspect of Thai culture, or you tell me to write 40 pages on Thai culture, or as the Marine Corps Intelligence Agency once asked me to do, write 100 pages.
Oh my God!
On such concepts as honor and shame.
Oh wow,
that's a book, man.
So it's interesting. Yeah. So you're
if I can write about it, I can get it down. I can do it, and I feel confident. Fairly confident.
Well, I like the fact that you are. It seems like you almost have one foot in an academic realm, in that you're a writer. You've written extensively. You do academic style research, but you're also very much like a man on the ground. You're not like a professor. You're not just reading about Thailand. You're on the ground for real, like knows a million people and out and about and speak Thai.
I had really good training for academic style research that I think has stood me in good stead. It's sort of like my calling card, but not even a highly visible one that's in the background. And it's why I think my writing is still somewhat in demand. And because I did 2 master's degrees, one was in Southeast Asian studies, and so that's kind of obvious, but it didn't really teach me that much about research, other than I had a very good professor in art history, and she had specific ideas about how to do art history research. So that kind of influenced me. But the second degree, master's degree, was in Applied Linguistics at University of Hawaii.
Oh, very cool.
Grant to do that at the East-West Center. And they were real their scientific method. None of this Noam Chomsky, speculative stuff about the black box and the hardwired grammar, which none of it can ever be tested, much less proven.
Oh, I see.
So it was all about evidence-based empirical studies, and which I have never interested in before that, and never thought it was really even that important. And now I think it's very, very important.
But you approach your writing that way.
I do. I mean, unless I'm trying to just be a mood piece or atmosphere, I do that too.
Cool, very
But
cool.
I mean, when I'm doing research, like when I did my book on tattoos, when I did my book on stupas, I do, a solid lit review, and I try to make some original, summations about whatever it is. So I try to go a step further than all the researchers before me.
Sure.
What the last book you did, was that the tattoo book?
Was it the last one? I've done. I've done a couple others since then. What did I do? I did Anantara. I did 2 books for Anantara. One was Soft Adventure around the world. I went to every Anantara at the time, and then 3 or 4 years later, I did one on cuisine for them. So that came out like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And they sent me again to every country in the world. Like now, by that time, it was 28 countries. I was in Africa, and I was in Zambia, and
is that as romantic as it once was? That sort of roving, like, journalist wandering around the world with a pencil behind your ear, just like gathering stories.
It is for me. I love it. That's the best part of the job. I love the travel. And it's still, the places I was going, I was in Morocco. in Portugal. I had never been to Portugal, and it was just so, I'm just so curious and thirsty. And so, it was great.
I was in a noodle joint 3-4 years ago down off of on Jerankrung Road a little bit. I forget what it was called now. Mama something, or Mom's Noodles or something like that. It was Pad Thai place, and they had their own little cookbook, their own little coffee table book.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, and it was like text by Joe Cummings.
Oh, that's Ban Pad Thai.
Ban Pad Thai. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I've done 4 cookbooks now. Yeah.
Oh, really?
4 cookbooks. Yeah. And I'm about to get contracted for another. And I'm also I pitched a book on Bhutanese cuisine because I've made 2 trips to Bhutan. And I'm dating a Bhutanese girl now.
Oh, what? Yeah. So tell us about it. What's Bhutanese cuisine like?
It's really good. It kind of gets short shrift like Burmese cuisine in a way. Like people go through there briefly. It's different than that, though. And the reason Burmese cuisine gets a bad name, I think, is that it's a poverty cuisine, so really shitty ingredients. And then only if you're in like a middle-class household, you get some nice food.
Okay.
Or a very special restaurant. With Bhutan, it's the fact that because they require everyone to take a package there, you've heard that, right? To get a visa to travel in Bhutan, you have to purchase a package. They're trying to limit tourism. So it's
like a travel package.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it sounds expensive because it's $250 a day, but it actually includes all hotel, all food, a guide, and all transportation. So you would end up spending it anyway, if not more.
Right. Okay. I see.
But anyway, the food that's served on those, and which is the only way. So every tourist, since they opened the tourism, that goes to Bhutan eats this food that they're making for tourists that's not real Bhutanese cuisine. So that's why I'm interested in the real Bhutanese cuisine, like people eat outside of the hotel.
So the chefs that cook the food for the tourists, what do they eat when they go home?
Yeah,
after their day.
Oh, cool.
Exactly.
Now, and is that relatively unknown? Because I've never come across that. I mean,
it's a bit like Tibetan or Sikkimese food. Momos is really big, dumplings, and a lot of dried meats because they have these harsh winters and they have to store everything, dried pumpkin, dried vegetables. And they're really good at that, really good at curing and keeping things stored like originally in a cave or something. And
now, is your girlfriend likes to cook that stuff, or do you have to go to Bhutan?
She cooks.
Oh,
she
great.
cooks. Yeah, and there are a couple of places in Bangkok.
Oh, there are?
Yeah, the best one's Little Bhutan. That's in Pahurat.
I just was around there. I think I saw that
yeah,
place.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's
my buddy
best.
wanted to go there, yeah.
And there's Tibet Kitchen, which has, kind of overlap there. And there's one more place called Hungry Eye. That's Bhutanese.
So the Bhutan one, is that on the Klong Ong Ang?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. I was just there the other day because I took my kid to that toy mall.
Yeah.
Where when they knocked down the market, all the toy vendors and like the guys that had like little junky Chinese export stuff and video games, they all moved into that mall.
Really?
So I took my son there. And it's just like, remember back in the day when the first time you went into Pantip Plaza as a computer nerd, it was like you drop to your knees like, oh,
yes.
That was the same for him. It was 5 floors of toys and video games, right?
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah. So a movie that I saw recently also was Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yep.
Which is,
what'd you think?
I thought it was, story wise, I thought it was pretty standard. I think these animated movies, and this is not a knock against this movie because I really did like it.
They're just like that. They're corny.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here we go. There's a thing, there's a parent, there's a conflict, there's a cute sidekick. Yeah. And then in the end, everyone learns to work together to overcome the big bad. So, been there, done that. But it was a beautiful movie. The way it was animated.
And the way that Asian stuff was incorporated.
Yeah, it was really unique because like the little sidekick, the cute little sidekick, his name was Tuk Tuk.
Tuk Tuk, yeah.
And then the specialty soup in there that one of the characters was a fan of was clearly Tom
Several
Yum.
dishes coming in from around here. Yeah.
So what was that like?
So that was it. That's another non-disclosure agreement I signed. That was real. They just kept hammering it into me. It was 5 years ago. I took them around Thailand and Cambodia, and the place they were most interested in was, of course, Angkor Wat area. And you see a lot of that in the film, a lot of those carvings.
Yeah.
And but they were grilling me also about the Naga mythology, the importance of water. I think I just brought that out. I think I brought that to their attention. I said, well, the Naga is important because it's in the water, and water is the center of mainland Southeast Asian culture. And they said, really? Tell us more. And anyway, just to back up a little bit. So I was contacted by an agent in San Francisco because they had just bought Pixar. So they had offices in San Francisco, Pixar, and then Disney Studios in LA. And so they had, anyway. So it was the top writers and top artists plus Paul Briggs, who was the guy that did Frozen and what's the other one? Big Hero 6?
I love Big Hero 6.
Huh?
Big Hero 6 is so awesome.
Yeah. Paul Briggs. Both of those films gross at the box office $1 billion.
Wow.
These Disney films make more money, way more money than normal feature. They also cost way more, which I naively had no idea, but I was like, oh, you guys must save a lot of money. You don't have to go on location. You're just doing voices and drawings. And they looked at me like,
dude, they're like,
these are like 10 times more expensive because we have like 400, 500 artists working on it.
Right. So one of my former students was a guest on the podcast. Maybe I won't name her, but she wrote a paper for me, and it was like independent study work.
Yeah.
And the students come to me with a topic, right? And she said she wanted to write a paper on Disney princesses. And initially,
That's a pretty cool idea.
Well, initially, I admit I was just like,
yeah, you weren't interested.
I'm like, I don't think that's very academic.
Yeah,
I think
elitist.
Yeah, I was like, we need something more serious. But she convinced me. She's like, no, you don't understand. There's like this whole evolution of how the prince, from Cinderella, like all the way up to Mulan.
Yeah.
And she convinced me, and it was great. It was like a great paper. And I was just talking to her about the new movie. So the Raya is the name of the lead.
Raya and the Last Dragon.
But there's a lot of work that Disney goes into those characters and how they want them to be Asian, quote unquote, or Chinese or Japanese or whatever, but they want them also to be modern.
Yeah, that's right. They
kind
use
of
modern dialogue,
and be kind of empowering.
Yes,
it's a cool. It's a
cool thing. I remember when they kept saying we want to meet children and talk to kids because our movies we're going at that way, and we want to see what their stories are like. What are the local fables and mythology that they know about and that they think are important, as opposed to like sort of academic look at it. So I arranged a bunch of interviews in Cambodia and in Thailand with children, and I translated it, or I got it translated in Cambodia, and all along through the thread was a lot of it now, and I didn't quite pick up on it at the time. Was so are there any female heroes? They were looking for a female hero or a composite of female heroes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I didn't really know. They didn't tell me explicitly that they were going to have a female hero.
Well, one of the themes of this paper that my student wrote was the difficulty of getting like traditional images of women in Asia and presenting them in a modern context without contradicting tradition. Because there's the cliche or stereotype of the submissive Asian woman, like the old school thing,
of course,
which is true and valid and historical.
Yeah.
But at the same time, especially Disney and for the whole world, they want a modern take on it and a modern version of that. And if you think about it, it's not easy to do.
No.
How to honor the
I don't think so.
traditional culture, but still be Asian or be Thai or, but be modern.
It is difficult.
Right. Well, the work that they did on Raya was really nice. It was a gorgeous film, beautifully animated, very colorful. Yeah. Definitely worth checking out, Ed, if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
Also, Big Hero 6. That's a legit, funny, good film.
For sure.
My son loves it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. And so Raya was great. And it was interesting because these Asian, I think that Asian cultures are starting to have their day in the sun, maybe, Crazy Rich Asians was the first big successful all Asian cast, which was great. And I remember there was a Pixar, what they do at the beginning of the films, they show their little animated shorts, those 5-minute movies at the beginning of their main feature. And there was one called Bao, B-A-O, the steamed bun, the dumpling. And it was of this woman who makes a bao, and it becomes alive, and she sort of it becomes her son, and he grows up, and then he gets a girlfriend, and it was like this growing thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was beautifully done. It was actually written and directed by a Canadian woman, Asian Canadian woman.
Full length feature?
No. This was like the pre-movie, like 5 minutes.
Short. Yeah.
It's a short. And it was really, really cute and really nice. And I remember reading something about it because it's those little details that you and I take for granted, but other people see. Yeah. And in one scene, there was a toilet paper roll on the kitchen table. Yeah. And all of the Canadian animators, because the studios in Montreal were like, yo, what's this toilet paper roll doing on the table? That's disgusting. And she's like, no, it's an Asian thing. Toilet papers are napkins, like tissues, right?
Right. That's so funny. That's a legit thing.
It is, yeah. But it's those little details, those attention to details, like the Tom Yum Goong and Raya and the Last Dragon. You stirred it up and you could see the lemongrass and the shrimp and stuff.
And then there was the joke. I assumed it was joke.
Yeah, because that little boy character.
Yeah, exactly.
That boat. Great film.
Well, I know in the States now, there's a lot of push to get more representation of Asians in American cinema. And I do think it's gotten better.
And then, and then the Palme d'Or just a couple of years ago was won by that Korean film.
Oh yeah, well,
Parasite.
Yeah. Actually, the Oscar,
The
the
Oscar.
best picture, the Oscar.
Oh, the Oscar. Okay,
the
that's
Oscar.
what it was, not Palme d'Or.
Yeah.
Maybe it got the
They
Palme
might
d'Or
have won
too.
the Palme d'Or too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Excellent film, man.
I haven't seen it.
It's
It's
so good.
It's on my computer.
So it's weird because on the one hand, it seems like there's all this representation of Asian culture in America, but then now supposedly there's all these attacks on Asians in the U.S.
Yeah, it's sick, man.
It's America is so strange because I was raised to think of America as a melting pot, and we are, but at the same time, there's still not that much integration. Or if you're raised Asian American, a lot of them, they're going to be made fun of at some point in their life, and even if they're born in the States, and I think Jeremy Lin, the basketball player, was talking about how people ask him like, where are you from and stuff like that, and and a lot of these they're Asian Americans, they're born in the U.S., but people still ask them, no, where are you really from?
Right.
It's unbelievable that.
Well, it happens in Thailand too, the other way around. Like Hugo was telling me, before he got famous and people recognized him, he was saying that people would like think it was a Falang, and then he'd speak Thai, and they go like, "Wow, your Thai is so good," and he'd say, "Well, so is yours."
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
That's awesome, and of course, we're talking about Hugo Chakrapong.
Yeah, I know that. It has nothing to do with, I must have met him somewhere along the line.
We all know a couple of people that know him, and he's related to former Thai royalty way back in the day. I was doing a walking tour. I have the series of walking tours, a GPS guided walking tours for a company called Voice Map. And I was building one around that started at Khao San Road, and Chakrapong Road was named for one of his great grandfather, probably.
Right.
And I said, like, on the tour, I was like, the road you're standing on right now is Chakrapong Road. And, the descendant of the guy that this road is named for covered Jay-Z's song, 99 Problems. Jay-Z? I'm not cool enough to know. I think it was Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great cover, by the way.
Then Jay-Z became his manager.
Yes. It's so weird.
It's funny. I used to teach this American immigration class. And in the States, you're raised to think of the States as diverse or as a melting pot. But one of the things we did in class is I had my students do their family trees.
Yeah.
So all Thai students doing family trees. And I wanted to show them that Thailand is more mixed than people realize. But Thai people usually don't talk about it that way.
And they think, I'm 100% Thai, but
they're almost all Chinese, almost all.
Yeah, or something else, some Mons and Khmer.
Mons, that's right.
Lao, nobody's 100% Thai.
Yeah, so I had one just as a little trivia fact. I taught the course, I think, 4 times.
Yeah.
I never had more than one student with 8 Thai great grandparents.
Really?
Yeah. So they all, if I made them, because I tried to get them to go back to great grandparents.
Yeah.
And I never had more than one in a class of 40 that didn't have a mixed, weren't mixed race in some way.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's strange coming from Canada because when someone asks me what Canadian food is, I'm like, I don't know. Like
pancakes,
bannock bread and beaver maple syrup poured over snow, which is a real thing.
Maple syrup.
No, you pour maple syrup. You put a popsicle stick in the snow.
Sounds good.
And you pour maple syrup on it, and it freezes, and then you eat it on
nice.
the popsicle
Sounds
stick.
Excellent. Yeah.
Nice.
But beyond that, our food options to the
Just
world.
throw a little Jack in there.
That's right.
That's great.
So speaking of films, Joe, tonight you just came back from a movie that was a documentary about the Dhammakai sect. And for listeners, we did a show, I think it was in season 3 with Prat Pandit.
Yeah.
He came on to talk about Dhammakai because it's a controversial Buddhist sect. And a lot of people say it's very bad. A lot of people say it's very good. But this documentary that you saw, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was pretty what's the word? Fair in presenting both sides. So I think if you're a viewer, probably every viewer already has a bias and maybe confirmed either way. But it was really well done. It really built tension too as it went along. It had of course the history, a little bit of potted history of the place, and the abbot and all of that, and then what it did really well was it followed one little nucleus of followers who were nobody special, not like, because it's famous for having a lot of wealthy followers, but it's not really the rank and file. So some kind of middle class, lower middle class that they followed that was just perfect, spouting the party line. And then they would switch over to someone who was a critic, either a spokesperson from the government, who usually was quite silly, it made you see it more from the Tamagai viewpoint. You're just saying, well, it's just a power grab,
Wow.
They just want to put us down, Or like the former monk, Mano is what he calls himself now. And he was a monk very high up in Tamagai, and he's very reasoned and very afraid. He presents a very scary view of the inside of the movement. So you get both sides all the way through, and the way they build it up to the point where the police and the army are going into search. And one of the things that's most ironic, it seems like the most obvious thing that shows that something's not right there is that when they first were trying to get the abbot Tamachayo, and so the temple kept making these videos and sending them out to the press, but they made them themselves. So, you don't know how true they're. It showed him lying in bed, in the hospital bed, and everyone's bowing to him. And this is proof that our abbot is so ill that he cannot present himself to the police. He cannot travel. And this is over and over again. And then as soon as the police arrive, he's disappeared. So he's obviously well enough to travel.
What is I'm not up to date. What's the current status?
They don't know
of the
where
abbot?
he is.
Oh, he
They
just
have
disappeared.
no idea. Yeah.
So he might be in Thailand, but might not be.
Well, he's probably in Thailand.
Oh, you think he's in Thailand, but
Well,
hiding?
actually, who knows?
Yeah.
He opened up an amulet shop down the street. It's
Yeah.
the 7-Eleven.
Well, there's been a couple of other famous, allegedly Buddhist monks who have gotten rich and fled and
Yeah,
that's right.
or whatever. I forget that guy's name.
You take a TikTok video on a private jet. You're
for
gonna
me, the most damning thing, because it's superficial, but it still just got me. As soon as you see the first image of this abbot in the film, and actually, or in the newspaper, or whatever, he's wearing sunglasses exactly like Jim Jones.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow.
I thought they were more like Anna Wintour, but Jim Jones
Probably not a good-
is
probably-
an apt
The great thing is that,
Probably not a good PR move.
standard cult leader, the
Yeah.
Koresh.
Yeah.
The Koresh, I think they're called. So that movie was called Come and See.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
check it
good,
out.
very well done. And also, as I was saying earlier to you guys, it has it works on a deeper level of sort of an examination of Thai politics and the place of Buddhism in Thai society and how it's used by the powers that be to reinforce their own power. And this is a challenge to them, but it is a scary challenge. It's the most influential temple by far in Thailand. So much money. And
I don't know much about it. I need to watch the movie, but it
Yeah.
just reminds me a little bit of Scientology in that
It's
they're
a
on
lot
the
like
fringe, that they're just on the fringe, and it's very hard to tell if it's like a real religion or if it's some just.
And they're
just a
millennial
cult.
too. Their scary thing is it's a millennialist movement in the sense that all the followers interviewed, they're all ready to die, not just for the religion, which is scary enough. They're ready to die for the abbot. Rather than release this abbot, we will die.
So they think the end of the world is
millennial.
coming.
Yeah,
kind
they
of
think
apocalyptic kind of
I
thing?
think
Wow.
so. You got that feeling.
Any day
Yeah,
now.
because they kept talking about the next life. It won't matter if I die. And during the second siege by the army, one of the followers committed suicide. Right in there.
This is Bill Maher's thing about his criticism of religion is that religious people don't really care about the world now as it is because they're really concerned what comes next.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
It's interesting too because you add to that that fringe element of it, and you add to it as us being foreigners and as godless heathens. Ed and I can't speak for you, Joe, but
Right.
we have no visibility into that side of things. We don't know how
have no
influential
idea,
they are. We don't read the Thai press.
Yeah.
We don't understand the moves that are being made. So when something like that happens, it really comes out of the blue. Yeah. It's
Well,
weird.
let's switch subjects, man. Not that the next topic is positive.
The afterlife is not important enough
No.
for you.
I just since we have this expert on Thai travel, I want to know what your take is on Thai tourism in the future. Is it? Do you think we're headed towards something totally new, or do you think it'll in a couple of years it'll be back to where it was? What do you see?
It depends how you look at it. But I think it will be back more or less to where it was. I mean, what some people have this kind of hope that, because of the absence of tourism, now Thailand has had time to heal and now a better form of tourism will develop. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't think so? Huh?
No, I was like back in after the tsunami in 2004, said the same thing. All this infrastructure has been wiped out along the lower Andaman coast, and they're going to rebuild it in a more environmentally friendly way and take fewer people. The grubby governor who flew me around the province by helicopter 4 days after the tsunami was saying that kind of stuff. We're not going to let the mafia back in on GOP-PP was one of the things.
Yeah,
Oh, really? Yeah,
good luck with that.
And it didn't, none of that happened. And the same here. So first of all, I don't believe in this alternative new form of tourism.
Okay.
Now, I do think, on the other hand, that, yeah, for sure, tourism will bounce back. I don't know how long it'll take, but Thailand has, Teflon Thailand, as they say. It's just so irresistible to.
I agree. And also Thailand's reputation as far as COVID goes has been pretty good. Mm-hmm. So it's not, this hasn't been some kind of horrible COVID hotspot that might scare tourists away.
That's true.
In the long
Brazil
run.
Or somewhere.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
right. That's right. So you think 2 years, 3 years?
I don't know any more than anyone else what you read in the newspaper. Yeah, 2 years. Let's say 2 years.
Now I know it affects your work.
2 years.
But
it really does.
But is it good that there is a break? I mean, obviously it hurts people's livelihood. I don't obviously economically. Yeah. But I mean, I understand your point that we're probably not going to get some environmental friendly tourism, but maybe it is good. Bit. Okay, maybe it is good for the coral and the beaches that there's been this break.
For sure. Like even the pollution in northern Thailand is better this year, way better. It's like the numbers are like 150 every day. It's sort of like Bangkok on a bad day. Maybe it's 150.
But why is that?
I don't know. I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not. But it might be there's just less market for the whatever it is that they're growing and burning,
Gotcha.
I tend to agree with you in terms of how, this sort of pie in the sky idea of we're only going to start good tourism now. And I think Thailand is not unique in this regard, but it's all, it's follow the money, right? The money talks.
And they say, we're just going to get the quality tourists. They've been saying that for 30 years. We're going after the quality tourists.
I hate that.
We don't want those dirty backpackers anymore. Bring us the quality tourists with a lot of money per day, even though every academic tourism study that's ever been done comparing all that, net income from different sectors show that the backpackers leave the most money behind because they have longer vacations and they spend more locally and less to the agency, the DMCs that are
That's
overseas.
Right. And they're more interested in getting out into the lesser known areas.
For sure,
they didn't buy a package. So when you buy a package, you come here, you spent 50%. 50% never got here.
Right. Plus backpackers are also potential future tourists as well.
That's right.
So you come here at 21 and then you come back when you're 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever. I'm pro backpacker.
I am too. And it's not because I used to work for Lonely Planet, because I haven't done it since 2006. And I'm not, the way I travel, even when I have money, is like that because I don't want to be culturally insulated. And I want to have adventures that just have to do with not too much planning,
You don't want to necessarily be at a 5-star hotel that's good. Could be like those hotels are kind of the same everywhere in the world, right?
They are the same everywhere in the world. There's a few, it's like cookie cutter. I mean, there's different variations, but they're all pretty much the same. And it's like
no one makes a swan in the towel as good as they do at the Oriental.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I got to say that was one of the funnest interviews to do, and we've still got part 2 coming up next time. Man, he is such an easy guy to talk to, and honestly, we talked for more than an hour. It could have easily gone on for 3, 4, 6 hours. I mean, it could have gone all night.
Right. We only got halfway through that bottle of Jack. If we kept going, it might have gotten a little more off the rails, but it was super fun.
He has done everything, man. I mean, like you said it right in the intro that he's a Renaissance man. It's just talk about a storyteller with varied experience. He's not like a doctor that can tell you, 50 stories about different people he's healed. He's like somebody. He's done so many different things.
Yeah, and if anyone's earned the right to brag, it's Joe, but he doesn't. He's just so down to earth and super.
Oh, he's very low key. I think you and I talked about this. I'm not sure if it's in the interview part that got recorded, but you and I were talking about before the interview that he really does not pursue any type of status at all. I don't think. Like it's like people know his name through his work. And he's semi-active, like on social media, but he's not someone who's like really promotes himself much.
No, he's not. And I find it, if I had been here as long as he has and done as much as he has,
right?
I'm nearly at the stage where I introduce myself like, "How you doing? My name's Greg. Been here 20 years."
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
He's been here 40 plus.
Yeah, and he's still down to earth and nice and just fun. Cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah, great stories. And we'll get into more of those next week on part 2 of the show too. So many thanks to Joe for coming and sitting down with us. I hope it's not 10 years until he comes back again, because that was way too long.
No, dude, once a year, man. We got to do a Joe show once a year. I'm putting my foot down.
All right.
We must do a Joe show once a year.
The Joe cast. We'll do it.
That's right.
All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as just something that we have to learn to live with, no matter how we feel about it. Last time, my topic was Thai techno music, so this week it is Ed's turn.
Okay, I'm going to do just really straightforward this. I'll explain why I'm asking this.
All right.
After I get your initial feedback. But Craig, what do you think about, like, in general, what do you think about like electronic banking in Thailand and like e-payments?
Ooh.
What's your take? Like all the different ways to pay with stuff, like prompt pay and all that kind of stuff, plus like e-banking.
This is a good one. Yeah, I mean, a lot of foreigners often talk about frustrations with banking in Thailand and how it's often slow and red tapey. Man, this is a really good one. I'm kind of split on this one because like there a lot of time it is very easy to get frustrated with the Thai banking system, but at the same time, when the services that you use work, they work really well. And I transfer money to my friends with prompt pay on my phone. I pay with scanning the QR code almost everywhere I go. I haven't had much money in my wallet in weeks now. So for me, I think the electronic banking system in Thailand for me is really good. But someone who wants to maybe use a few more robust services might not have such a positive opinion. But for me, yeah, I'm love, man. I think what I need is there, and it works great.
Dude, I love the electronic banking in Thailand. And it's funny, I was trying to think of something I loved because of that that listener comment we got that our love, loathe, or live with are too negative. So I was thinking like, all right, I got to do something positive. What do I like?
That's a good one.
And I've always liked electronic banking in Thailand. Like I started using an app for my SCB account maybe 10 years ago.
Really?
Like a long time ago. Like, yeah, I mean, they had an Android app, whenever I started using Android, which is a long time ago, they had an Android app and, I could check my balance. I can transfer money between accounts. And what I really like is just setting it to give me either an email or an SMS anytime like money goes in my account or comes out of my account. So like that simple thing I really like. So it's like, because some of my bills are set up to automatic pay and there's, things like that. And so it just, I just get like a ping and I look and I'm like, oh, like Netflix. Okay. I just paid for Netflix. Right. Just, I don't know. I love it, man. And it's funny. I don't know I know electronic banking in the States is pretty good, but I remember one of my trips, it was about 3 years ago, but about 3 years ago when I went back, I was comparing what I could do with my Thai apps to my buddies in the States, and they were like, "Oh, basically like the Thai apps were better. Like they couldn't transfer do interbank transfers like the way I could." Yeah, so for once, I'm going to say something good about Thailand, especially about banking. You're right. I mean, I've got a lot to complain about the banks, like in the bureaucracy and how they're obsessed with like the bank book, like they're obsessed with that thing.
Book bank.
So I do have things to complain about the banking system, but I got to go thumbs up on electronic banking and like the electronic payment system.
Yeah, I'm down with it. Thumbs up from us too. For me too. Love on that. Nice.
All right, there you go. Whoever said we're not positive.
2-barrel love from Greg and Ed.
All right, a final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
True that. And you can also listen to each episode on the YouTube. You can send us a voicemail online that we might feature on the show, or you can even reach out to me directly on Twitter or Insta, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Stay safe out there. Stay home. Have fun. Enjoy your time alone and together. And we will see you here next week.
Yes, we will. don't know.
Can you talk in accents? Can you do like?
I really can't do accents, so I don't like to do it. I'm not good at it.
No.
I'm really not good at really any kind of acting. Like, it's funny because I teach. I feel comfortable in front of people, but I'm really not good at accents or acting. Like, if I could be myself in a movie, I would do it, and I wouldn't be scared. Like, I'm not afraid to be on camera or in front of people.
Right.
Like, if I could be a long-haired liberal college professor in a movie, I'd be like, sure, yeah, just let me. If I can be myself, I don't care.
Yeah.
But if they're like, okay, now cry, like,
think of your dog
no.
dying or something.
Even if someone tells me smile, I'm like, oh shit, I can't. What smile? How do I smile when you're just ordering me to do it? Like, there's nothing happening. There's no reason for me to smile. Why would I smile?
What's my motivation?